Richo, interestingly, you've got two mates that aren't at odds, but they're on two sides of what's happening at the moment when it comes to The Voice. Your mate Palaszczuk in Queensland, who basically says that your mate Albo needs to do a better job of selling it in Queensland, because Queensland's currently the only state where no is leading. But you, of course, on this program, on New South Wales election night, made it rather clear that you think no may well get up here.
I still think it's a chance. I'm voting no. I've made that pretty clear, and I think a lot of other people will. So it's one of those silent majority times where I just hope they come out and do it. I think you should be pretty careful about tinkering with the Constitution, and I don't think you should do it too easily.
How reckless and irresponsible of you. Aaron, This is the whole point. And that's why I was a little hard, and I know they just love me in other newsrooms around the country. But alas, cholesterol will probably end up doing what they may wish to do metaphorically. But let's be clear here, which is, last night, the Channel 9 News, right, they didn't even run in their 6 p.m. package why or what the Liberal position was. It took them 24 hours to actually explain it. Instead, it's all narrative. Today, it's all narrative. As Richo says here, right, again, all the polls currently say this thing's going to get up, right? But isn't it, again, beholden on the people whose job it is to talk about this for a living, to actually take the time to at least say why the other side's doing the other side stuff?
Oh, absolutely it is. And the ABC this morning, I think on Carvelis's program, was exactly the same. And this is what I hate about this whole debate. This is not a referendum on whether we as Australians want lives to improve for our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Of course we do. If it was a referendum on that, 99.9% of people would vote yes. It's a no-brainer, but the message is getting so confused. Alexander Downer was on Chris Kenny's show earlier and said that this is a test of bravery for the Liberal Party, and they've got to learn to give their message effectively, essentially, and to sell why they're not. I mean, to some extent, absolutely. The other side of it is, though, they are explaining it. It's just not being reported anywhere. They're not being accurately represented in the media as to why they are opposing this. It's just become nasty. And some of the slurs today on Peter Dutton in particular, personally, and on the Liberal Party for this stance that they've taken, that they have explained, and whether you agree with them or not, it doesn't matter, but they have explained why. You know, just hurts the yes side. I think it's actually really an own goal. I don't think we need to get nasty and personal and start to attack people because they oppose your view. It's murky waters, and it's just becoming like all the other debates in this kind of sphere, nasty and a negative rhetoric, and it doesn't need to be. Have robust debate. It's a motive for a lot of people, and I get that. Absolutely, but we can't mix the messaging here. It is not a vote on whether you want the Indigenous Australian lives to improve, because everyone wants that. Correct. It's whether this will effectively deliver that, and that's contentious.
Yeah, correct. I mean, again, we showed it at the start, but can we rack up old darling Dan again? Here's what he had to say about the Liberal Party daring to have exactly the same caution that Richo's got, that plenty of people who watch this show have got, and plenty of free-thinking people seem to be willing to say when it comes to pollsters. Have a look. Oh, no, I'll play it up for you in a second, all right? It was the third grab in the list we were planning to play. But all right, Gary, give me an idea here, again, about what's happening in Queensland, where, again, look, let's be really honest. No is currently leading, I think, by 2%. So let's be honest, if there can be a little changes here or there when it comes to numbers. But what about that point when Palaszczuk is saying to Albo, come up and speak Queensland, because apparently you speak a different language?
Well, no, Queenslanders have got an enormous and really effective BS meter, Paul. And, you know, you can trust the view of Queenslanders on just about everything. And Peter Dutton knows that, David Crisafulli knows that you can actually trust the judgment of Queenslanders. And they have seen through this. I mean, what Peter Dutton announced yesterday is very clear. He doesn't want to see a racial divide in the Australian Constitution. And everything after that is just window dressing to try and distract everybody. Anastasia Palaszczuk knows that. She's a canny enough politician to understand that. She secretly, in her heart of hearts, doesn't want Albo anywhere near it, because all that's going to happen is her vote is going to continue to plummet. Look, Paul, the trouble is all of these various provincial leaders around the country never look at Australia as a nation. There's nothing surprising in this from my point of view, and I was a federal minister, and I'm sure that Richo would have the same experience. They look at what goes on in their states. They don't look at what's good for the country, and the Australian Constitution is something that you rarely, if ever, have to change, because it's actually worked pretty well for 120-something years. So the founding fathers, and they were all blokes, kind of got it right back in the 1890s. So, you know, if we're going to put race back in after the Liberals took it out in the 60s, I think Albo should hang his head in shame, and I think Australians are winding up the baseball bat now that they've got Peter Dutton's leadership saying, you know what, I'm actually against this. I reckon Dutton has now galvanised a lot of people to rejoin the party. A couple might have left it, one out of Western Australia today, but others are actually saying, I'm getting back engaged with the Liberal Party because they stand for something. They stand for bringing us all together and not a big Canberra bureaucracy.
Now,
Pretty simple.